Hey everyone, this is Christine. Welcome to my channel and to this video on the spring equinox. We are going to get started right away. Note that this video is timeless. This is talking about the general spring equinox, so you can watch this at any time. I may make some particular time references and I'll note them, but this is available anytime a spring equinox occurs or you'd simply like to dive in and learn more about the multidimensional and multidisciplinary aspects, energies, and themes surrounding this annual event. At the time of this filming, it is 2024, and this year the spring equinox will occur on March 19th. But generally, the spring equinox occurs March 19th, 20, or 21 up here in the Northern Hemisphere, and September 22, 23, or 24 in the Southern Hemisphere. So this is valid whichever hemisphere you live in. A cool fact before we dive in is we have not had a March 21st spring equinox up here in the Northern Hemisphere at all during the 21st century, and we will not have one until 2101. More than likely I will not be here, but maybe this video will. And what's really interesting and something I really wanted to preface this video with as to why some of the dates have been shifting in March and in September is because the years are not always equal to the same number of days, hence leap year, right? In 2024, at the filming of this video, we have leap year. The next one will be in 2028. So the Gregorian calendar does not align exactly or 100% to the tropical calendar. And the tropical calendar, for folks that may not know, it's simply the Earth's orbit around the sun, the amount of time it takes. And we measure it, generally we see it in days. The Gregorian calendar has 365 days in a common year and 366 days in a leap year. Earth takes approximately 365 days to orbit the sun, but to be more exact, it's 365.242199. So they're approximate and they're not the same. So this is why we have leap years, because they help realign the calendar system with tropical years so that the equinoxes as well as the solstices shift back. Otherwise, they're going to keep moving at later dates. Other reasons that I found while I was digging into this research, and some of this is probably more scientific, so I'm keeping it simple because that's not even my background, but the Earth's elliptical orbit has been changing its orientation relative to the sun. So it means the Earth's axis is pointing in different directions at all times. And this is called precession, and I'll leave it at that. If any of you folks are or have expertise in this area, please comment down below. This is totally out of my area, but I found this really neat so we could learn more about some of the reasons why these dates have been shifting. Second, the pull of gravity from other planets also affects the Earth and its orbit. So that's another reason why we have shifting dates. Let's dive into the origins of the spring equinox. So there are several names that have been used to denote this annual phenomenon, and it includes the March equinox, because it occurs in March in the Northern Hemisphere. We have the vernal equinox, and then we have the northward equinox, simply because of the movement of the sun from south to north. So equi as in equinox or equinox, depending on how you pronounce it, and nox are of Latin origins. And equi derives from the Latin term equus. Hope I said that right. I consulted my kiddo that speaks Latin and I'm like, okay, hopefully we got this. It means equal. And then we have nox in Latin, which means night. So equal night is how it translates. So we're going to have about the same amount of sunlight during the day and nighttime, give or take a few extra minutes depending on your orientation and where you are in the world. So let's get into the astronomical meaning of the spring equinox. Essentially, the spring equinox occurs when the sun moves and crosses the celestial equator from south to north. The celestial equator is an invisible or imaginary line that is located above the Earth's equator from south to north. That's why when you see in many drawings or videos, you'll see a line around it. There's really no physical demarcation. It's also called the first point of Aries or cusp of Aries because it enters into the season of Aries. Hence when we have the spring equinox. Remember I mentioned precession earlier in the video when talking about the reason why the spring equinox can occur in different times, on different dates I should say. It has to do with this changing in the rotational axis of the Earth. And this is an astronomical technicality because we're not really entering into Aries, but we're in the constellation of Pisces. And I thought this was fascinating. I've always been fascinated by this stuff, but again, I'm not an astronomer. So if any folks have even more information, comment down below. It always adds to the conversation. So we experience the same amount or almost equal amount of light and night during this day in both the Southern and Northern Hemisphere, March and September respectively. So this is also too when we have the astronomical season of spring starting and winter ending. And usually the astronomical seasons versus the meteorological seasons are a little bit different. They don't start at the same time, and there's usually a time lag. And it's going to vary because some folks live in spring seasons or are entering spring during this time when the spring equinox occurs, but it may not be warm. Likewise for folks that are experiencing winter solstices, where for some they're going to have very low light, maybe snow or cold temperatures, others may not. So this warming is largely symbolic again. So in general, you're going to start experiencing more light in a 24-hour day. So we're officially climbing out of darkness and heading into the light, and it's going to continue getting brighter and brighter and brighter. Think about like a dimmer. You know those dimming light bulbs, and when you press them, they get brighter and brighter until we reach the summer solstice in June or December, wherever you are in the world, Northern or Southern Hemisphere, respectively. And that's where we're going to see the highest amount of light at that point. So we are embracing a return to life and so many other themes which I'll touch on. Briefly, the spiritual meaning. When you think about it, and I always like to pause and ask people this, when you think about spring, what comes up for you? Because more than likely, everyone innately knows. What do we see happen in spring? And even just the word spring, it reminds me of Tigger, something bouncing up, bouncing forward, bouncing towards something, some type of action, movement, or growth. And so spring season signifies just that. We have a time here of rebirth, renewal, reinvigoration, growth, warmth. Generally, the temperatures start to warm up for many people, depending on where you are in the world. New beginnings, blooming, coming out. And something here, there's a lot of unlayering happening. You'll see a lot of things, physically removing layers. Many people start to put away their winter wardrobes, lighten up, wear t-shirts, lighter clothing and fabrics. You see animals coming out of their habitats for those that have hibernated, worms coming out from the soil, etc. So there's an element here of unlayering that we're all experiencing. This is also the time of year where many people start to feel better, especially when it comes to their mental health, but also emotionally and even physically, because there's more sunlight, more vitamin D, and you generally feel or start to feel more energized. So we're honoring here the cycle having to do with life, death, rebirth, and this is just something that constantly repeats. Let's dive into the astrological symbolism and meaning. This is one of my favorite parts, but all of these really allow you to get a deep, multi-layered look at the spring equinox. Instead of just saying, yeah, it occurs in 1 year, it's really interesting when you get to understand the reasonings behind, well, how did this come about? Why does this occur? How you can also integrate some of these practices in your own way, in your spiritual journey and in your life. So the spring solstice occurs when the sun enters the season of Aries. And this marks the first astrological, or I should say this marks the beginning of the astrological new year. And it marks a new beginning, a reset, because Pisces is at the end of the zodiac wheel. And so Aries is ruled by Mars. Next, we have Taurus, ruled by Venus. And then we have Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And these three signs or seasons, largely speaking, represent the springtime. And again, this is more symbolic when we're talking about all of this. So Mars initiates the season and represents Aries. And Aries is a cardinal or tropical sign because it turns over, initiates, takes the lead on, or does something to start something. And it's one of the 4 signs that initiates a new season. The next one we have is Cancer, which is generally summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Then we have Libra, starting the fall. And then we have Capricorn with winter. And likewise, it'll be different for those folks in the Southern Hemisphere, but this is all symbolic because it has to do with the light, the amount of light that's shifting. So Aries initiates this light of the light season. So we are getting a peak after we leave Pisces season. We are exiting, think about exiting a tunnel. You know, it's dark behind us, but as we head towards that entrance, it gets lighter and lighter. And this is exactly what Aries season represents. We're seeing light, and light is becoming more predominant over the darkness. It'll gradually grow, as I mentioned earlier, until we get to the apex in June with the summer solstice. So this is very representative of a symbolic springtime and springing forward. The sunlight here is also, and I should say the growing sunlight, because it's continuously getting brighter. It's associated with masculine dominant young energy, but also youth. And the first glimmer of light associated with the Aries season, it denotes a youthful, optimistic, enthusiastic energy, because it's almost like being in hibernation or in slumber mode for so long, and all of a sudden you're seeing something become activated. And there's a sense of wonder, joy, curiosity, but also excitement, because you're ready to start something new. You're ready to start moving and shaking and getting up. And this is exactly what starts happening, because Aries is ruled by Mars, that's its domicile ruler, and then the sun is also exalted in Aries. So Aries takes on both of these significations, and we'll see that. So the significations of this lesser malefic include bravery, courage, strength, assertiveness, leadership, action, passion, willpower, vitality, ambition, drive, and these are some of the higher octaves. Then we're getting into conflict, violence, accidents, division, frustrations, confrontation, aggression, fear and facing fears, individuating, independence, youth, and eternal youth, and there's many more. But I wanted to offer you the spectrum of what Aries represents, and as it's ruled by Mars in particular, because these are the different expressions that can come out. But we're getting fired up. The engines, or our engines, I should say, are starting to come alive, and they're roaring. And you may be feeling this energetically, like you're starting to wake up. You may be feeling like you're having more energy, especially in the Aries area of your life. So, like I said before, Aries is also exalted in the sun. So we also have these significations that the sun lends to Aries, which kind of boosts its confidence and makes it more preeminent, more of a leader. There's greater esteem and joy, vitality, and energy. We have movement, virility, power, idealism, action as well, intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom. Clarity too. Many folks start to get a lot of clarity around this time, and it's no surprise. We also have elements from or lending from or to or around nobility, regalness, strength, and in general, overall direction. So you'll see how both of these help support some of the astrological meanings behind Aries in this season, in which the spring equinox also initiates and is a part of. So something as well as Aries is associated, just like I mentioned earlier, since it's a cardinal sign or a tropical sign, with starting something new or taking an assertive role or leadership on. So it's about moving forward. And if any of you practice, watch, or read tarot, you'll know that the Fool card, 0, is the beginning of the journey. And you usually see someone that's very youthful, a young child, because it's the beginning of the journey that you're starting. So it's very representative of you're about to take the first steps towards something new. Maybe you're reinvigorating something in your life. Maybe you are taking on that youthful, excited energy. When you start something, you know how you're excited and you go all in. And it's a very different energy than doing something from a place where you don't really care about. So this is what we're starting in this season, or at least trying to imbue. The spring equinox also coincides with a lot of these themes and energies that I've discussed, and this is a time notably to start taking charge of your life, taking responsibility for your life, but also asking yourself, where do I want to go right now? What are my goals? What do I want to pursue? It's a good time for renewal as well, because some of the things that you may have been focused on in the preceding season of winter may have been more around themes dealing with rest, pausing, maybe going inward, solitude, healing in different ways. And now you're ready to come out and be seen in a different way. So this is about going towards your directions in a fearful way, in a more courageous way, doing something maybe that you haven't done before, even if it's something you want to continue doing, but maybe showing up in a different way. And ever notice why we have a lot of spring breaks around this time? Because things are starting to warm up. A lot of people are excited, no matter what your age, to be out, maybe in lighter clothing, to have fun, to be out with your friends and family and in groups, to enjoy nature, to commune, to go to amusement parks, to enjoy swimming, etc. There's so many things people do, and a lot of people start traveling more, and we see this increase into the summer seasons. So there's an optimism here, an excitement. It's like going out and having fun on the playground. This is also a very expansive energy that tends to ripple outward rather than the winter season or winter solstice energies that initiate something that goes more inward, more introspective, more solitude. So there's something here that we wish to pursue. We have a desire to take steps towards. We want to attain something or towards some type of idealization. And balance is key here because Aries is opposite Libra. That's its planetary contrariety, and it's ruled by Venus. So we're taking these steps forward. And again, remember those significations I mentioned about Aries? Ultimately, we want to balance that with not being complete conflictual, assertive jerks, right? That can happen regardless of the sign you're in. But balancing that with, okay, how am I going to include this in my life with respect to maybe the people that are involved, to myself, while holding space for whatever other things that I need to be a part of, get done, or that may entail other folks. So there's something here about infusing balance, harmony, pleasure, beauty, love, enjoyment, and other Venusian themes while we go about pursuing these Aries themes in the spring equinox as it initiates and starts in our lives. Because most folks don't start a new journey because they hate it. Most folks are not excited to do something or to try something because they hate it. There's usually some type of passion, connection, they love it, they enjoy it a lot, that helps propel them forward. I highly recommend you check the Aries area of your natal chart. And I say this pretty broadly, and this is why I don't delineate, because it'll change every year depending on the astrological transits in your birth chart, but depends on the house system you use. And I use whole signs, and not everyone does. And this will activate the area of life that you may be feeling called to address, to change up, to go forward, or to simply start this spring equinox putting your attention in. So check out your natal chart, see what's activating, what's popping up for you, what you are really wanting to focus. And I wouldn't be surprised if many of these energies or goals that you have in mind are related to those topics. This is also the area of life where individuation, maintaining your sense of you, who you are, your sense of drive around your purpose, your mission, and I'll say those can be plural, doesn't mean you just have one. So your purposes, your missions, your ambitions, your goals remain central to your being. Because remember the Fool's Journey, Aries, it's about you. Starting off this season or this astrological year in the spring equinox, asking, you know what do I want to plant this season for myself? So remember the winter season we left or just in the process of leaving? And I'll link the winter solstice video up here if you'd like to revisit that as we are culminating and wrapping up that season. And it'll vary again depending on when you watch this video. But also think about as we transition, what themes came up for you, because winter is a lot about hibernation, resting, pausing, retreating, releasing, sleeping, endings. a lot of wrapping up, and things are going to start accelerating pretty quickly. So the major focal point during that time was completing or completion, wrapping things up, endings, and releasing with the Piscean energies. That's why Pisces season, for the most part, not for everyone, can feel heavy, emotional, watery. A lot of things come up for healing and letting go. So what do we learn, or what are we learning with the spring equinox? There are various things. And most importantly, with many of these themes that I've already mentioned, we're learning to take healthier risks and take risks outside of our comfort zones and do new things, try new things. It doesn't mean they have to be 100% new, but maybe you're someone who enjoys music or composing music. Maybe it's time to connect to groups or another person or a buddy to get ideas or to share ideas. That's just one example that came to me. This is also a time of putting yourself out there, especially for your dreams, your goals, your desires. Aries is not someone, I'm saying this archetypally as an energy. The Aries energy is not someone or something that just sits on the couch and allows the world to pass them by. If they get an idea and they really want to do it, they're just going to do it. And this is what I personally admire about the Aries energy and archetype, because I have some people close to me that are predominantly, they have a lot of Aries energy in their chart, and they do that. And my dogs, they're Sagittarius sun, so they agree too. They just do it. It's almost akin to some of those slogans, like just do it. And this energy overall is teaching us, take action, do it. Be brave and bold. Yeah, and there may be some fear, but do it and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, okay, but try it. And that's the infusion of that youthful, excited energy. It's almost like when you see a little kid that wants to get ice cream with sprinkles or go to the playground. Most kids enjoy the playground because they get to have fun, connect, move, play, and do really curious, cool things. It's taking that energy and putting it into what you want to do. I already said this. It's also, we're learning how to get out and do things, especially things we may not have done before. We're doing things in a different way. We're also taking action and getting out of our heads and not just planning, processing, thinking, or overanalyzing, which is something Aries can be more impulsive about. They may not stop to think and smell the roses. They're like, let's go, let's just do it. Let's just plant a garden. We can smell the roses later. And there's a balance here with that, but it's a beauty. There's a beauty there in just taking that risk, again, those healthy risks, and doing things, because you don't know how they will benefit or turn out. And more importantly, there's going to be a lot of growth for you. We also learn inner strength, resolve, and drive, because Aries is ruled by Mars again, and it's exalted in the sun. So we're learning to allow ourselves to be seen. We're doing things that, again, there's a lot of things that may call for you to do things outside of your normal comfort zone in order to continue growing, especially in that Aries energy or area of your life. And we're learning to follow through on that. Aries is a cardinal tropical sign, so sometimes it's amazing at initiating and starting things, but it needs that drive and commitment, that goal, of that warrior quality to continue seeing it through. When you have that objective, that desire, or that idealism to send you forward, they will complete it. And this is all, I'm saying archetypal. I'm not saying this depicts every Aries out there, but this is the energy that we're working with. Finally, we're learning how to maintain our sense of self no matter who or what tries to challenge us, because there may be power struggles. There may be people that try to say, that's a bad idea, or no, that's stupid, or whatever it is. And this is the point in the process where in the spring equinox and these energies underlying Aries, where we say, you know what? This is part of me. This is what I want to try, and I'm going to do it. And if it doesn't work out, I know I'm going to learn something from it, and I will keep going, and I will keep heading towards what it is that I really have my heart set on. In a quick phrase here from Dr. Richard Tarnas in an introduction to archetypal astrological analysis sums this up. Mars represents the principle of energetic force. It symbolizes that part of the psyche which impels us to act, assert ourselves, to struggle, to press forward and against, to be courageous and vigorous, to be competitive or combative. And you can take these terms and define them in different ways. It'll depend on the context, because sometimes struggle and being competitive and combative can be more internal, where you're like, you know what, I'm going to do everything possible to finish my degree, or to eat healthier, or to pursue my dream of singing or rapping, whatever it is. And those journeys, all journeys in life, they're not generally, we're not coasting. It's not like going down a water slide and we're like, poof, we landed into our goal, or we've reached our goal. We generally experience small mountains. In other words, struggles, hardships, setbacks, challenges. And this is the warrior energy of Mars, because they have a lot of energy. And if we can express and shift that energy into higher octaves, right? Tapping into our creativity, the passion we have for what we do, we can channel it in beautiful ways. And the spring equinox is awakening us to all of this, saying, okay, it's time. It's almost like we're blooming as flowers. It's time to pick the flower you want to be and to allow yourself to bloom. And know that, yeah, there may be storms, there may be hail, there may be worms that want to eat your leaves, but you're going to keep growing. So you hold on to that. Let's get into some quotes. I found a few quotes that really connect me, at least, to the spring equinox energies in general. And I wanted to share them with you. And if you have any comment down below, share them with me, because sometimes having a quote, a mantra, or a word can really shift the energy around you and really help you connect to what it is you want to do next on a deeper level. This quote is by the American actor and comedian Robin Williams. Spring is nature's way of saying, let's party. And it's true. It's almost like we are now getting ready to organize our first party of re-entering the world. Because, again, winter season. So many folks retreat, become more introspective. They may stay more in their homes, warm up, hibernate, etc. And now springtime, people are slowly coming out, and we're seeing greater connection. That's when you start to see more events, more social events happening outside, more festivities, etc. So there's an element here of let's party and what that means to you. What do you want to start taking action on? What are you ready to start shifting or changing in your life? Where does the energy need to change? And I'll add to Robin Williams, one of my personal favorite actors, but regardless, this is a great time to start infusing more laughter into your life. So this could be a period where you may want to start watching more comedy shows or clips, and there's so many good ones out there. Movies, I like Mrs. Doubtfire, for example. Listening to or engaging to things that make you feel joyful and like a kid. The second quote that really exemplifies the process of unfolding, unveiling, unlayering, because it's not something we can hurry. Just like you can't make a plant grow, or when you put the seed in the soil, you can't fast forward it to the blooming process. You have to allow it. That's when you let go and you're like, okay, whatever I can do in terms of the sunlight, providing it sunlight and food, fertilizer and water, that's what I can do. But after that, you let the process unfold by itself. And Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher, said nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And it's extremely profound when you just sit with it, because with the energies that we are about to encounter, there may be a need of, I'm running out of time, I need to get this done. And again, taking on a lot. And that's not really the main point of this energy. It's to get excited, but it's also to make sure, because again, we have Libra on the opposite side. Make sure you take into account the balance, especially in the areas, I would say Aries energy of your life that's being activated, so you don't overcommit and you don't burn out, because that's a lower expression of some of these energies that can unfold. Everything will get done in time. You just need to make sure you show up for yourself and whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And I guess I got a few more quotes here. There's one by this Polish poet. She was a Nobel Prize winner for literature in 1996, and this is the first time I've come across her. Wisława, Szymborska. I hope I said her name right. She said, I don't reproach the spring for starting up again. I can't blame it for doing what it must year after year. I know that my grief will not stop the green. And this one really sat profoundly with me. And some of you, again, there's something about poetry and words that kept coming through while I was putting this video together and doing some extraneous research here. We're coming out of a period of wintering, of healing, of darkness. And there have been, I would say, generally around this time, this is something cyclical. So it's not just at the time that I'm filming, but generally there are a lot of challenges that people encounter and that comes up, especially around letting go, releasing, wrapping up different cycles in their life. When we're about to start something new, something ends. That's how it goes. So I like this quote that Viswara said, because it's simply acknowledging and accepting this is a process that's going to come regardless of whatever state we're in. We're going to see green, we're going to see light, we're going to see joy again. And so it represents a cyclical element of things won't always be the way they are. Finally, I'll end this with two quotes by Toni Morrison, the amazing novelist who wrote many great books. And the first quote, these two are pretty common. If you want to fly, you've got to give up the shit that weighs you down. And she put this in the novel Song of Solomon. And this is really well known, but this really represents the energies that we're going into in the spring equinox. Again, as we are starting something new, we're also letting go. So anything that has been hindering you, that has been weighing you down, you're like, I don't want to think about this. The energy is just on top of me. It's like kind of carrying your to-do list and you've had the same item on that to-do list for 2 years. You may ask yourself, is it time to let something go or someone go and move forward? And that's what kept coming up for me when I got this, because you do want to fly forward to grow, to evolutionize, to become more enlightened within your own soul path for yourself on your journey. The final quote, also by Toni Morrison: if you find a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. She said this in 1981 in her speech to the Ohio Arts Council, and it's become, again, one of her famous quotes as well. So many of these quotes have been ones you may have heard already, and if you have any to share, I'd love to hear from them. Comment down below. Anything, pop culture, quotes, books, poetry, share them, because I know they help me and many others connect to the energies as we go through this cycle and these seasons every time each year, but in different ways. So with this quote, this to me exemplifies this Mars energy, this Aries energy, and also the sun. There may be something you are really wanting to pursue. Maybe it's to start your own YouTube channel, or to start studying to become a chef, or to travel to a new place that you haven't. And this is the time to start creating and writing the life that you want and taking those steps. That's really what the Fool card is about. The energy of Aries, that youthful. It's a childlike energy that's like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try it and we'll see what happens. One song that kept playing since the start of my research here, it just kept playing round and round, was Enya's Return to Innocence. And I was like, huh, that's funny. I think this came up too in a channeled message for one of the lunation videos that I did, because I also channel messages when I do lunar videos, new moon and full moon. And again, this song, I encourage you to watch the video because you will understand and also get your own messages. But I'm like, now I know why I channeled it, because I sat through the video again. And I'll link it down below. Again, disclaimer, I don't get anything from it. It's just for reference for you guys and to help you on your journey. This video represents a process of self-discovering, reconnection to self, rebirth, that only you can undergo and that you will understand, but it's going backwards in time. So you see someone in old age going back to the moment of birth. And oh my gosh, many of the themes that come up symbolically relate to the spring equinox. I highly recommend this video. Super beautiful reminders that not only is life precious and that life continues and renews, but we ourselves, we're starting a new journey here, a new year, you could say, like many cultures celebrate during this time, new traditions, new beginnings, and so much more. So listen and see what comes up and share with me. Comment down below. Let's get into some modern yet ancient celebrations. There are so many. I found myself going through a rabbit hole, you guys, but I only plucked a few. There's just a lot, and they're so fascinating. So again, the equinoxes, solstices, they have been celebrated for the longest time, since ancient times, for centuries, since the Stone Age, and they continue on today. Some of them have evolved naturally, but many of them have that symbolic spiritual meaning underlying why people continue to celebrate the beginning of springtime. So something to note too, the spring equinox tends to initiate many calendar systems around the world, including for the Assyrians, Persians, and the Indian national calendar, which is called the Shaka. And I'll just go into a few here. In ancient Mesopotamia, with the Babylonians and the Assyrians, they start their calendar year with the first new moon after the spring equinox in March. And this equates to the day after the Sumerian goddess Inanna, Ishtar, who's also, I would say, linked to Aphrodite in Greek mythology. Similar, we'll just say they're identical. This is the day after Inanna came back up into the material world from the underworld. So you'll see similar stories in many of these myths and cultures originating from the ancient times. And this is similar to Persephone and Demeter in Greek mythology. When Persephone was kidnapped by Hades, springtime left, right? We entered fall and winter. There was no blooming, no flowers. Demeter, her mother, was sad and upset, and it was reflected in the environment. Everything was dying, was becoming brown and falling to the ground. You know how leaves change their colors? And then when she came out from the underworld to the earth, that's when we saw the blooming of earth again, of crops, of flowers, of plants, and life began to emerge. So this is a similar underlying story here. And we see this celebrated with the Akitu Spring Festival and the Kabinaisan, I hope I said that right, New Year celebration in the Assyrian and the Chaldean communities in northern Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. And then many diaspora communities around the world since the 1990s, because prior to the 1990s, there was political oppression, and you had the intellectual elites that helped revive this, I would say, honoring, celebration, and reverence for some of these ancient practices. It's only celebrated one day in April, which is April 1st, versus 12 days like the ancients celebrated this throughout the month of April. And Nisan equals first fruits in the Akkadian word. It's either Nisanu or Nisanu. So everything comes alive here, and there's so much more I wanted to add too about the food, what it represents, kind of like New Year's, how many people in different parts of the world eat different things, and it represents fertility, abundance, wealth, good health. Similar here, we'll find that in these practices, but I didn't get into it. This also coincides with the start of Aries season, which starts the astrological new year, and where you will feel things start to shift for you. So side note for anyone, if you're thinking, crap, nothing's been moving, things are stagnant, I'm trying to get ahead, things will start shifting. We also have the famous, well-known Persian Nowruz New Year festival that initiates during this time, celebrated in March on the 20th or 21st. And this links back to the ancient mythological king of Persia, Jamshid, who ascends to the throne every year. And folks in Persia and Iran offer different forms of honorings, reverences, and celebrate him for 2 weeks. So this is a really big event. We'll see it in also many diaspora communities around the world. And you also see this celebrated in other cultures, including the Turkic people, those in the North Caucasus, Albania, Zoroastrians, and followers of the Baha'i faith. We also have spring equinox festivities celebrated in Southeast Asia when the sun enters the sidereal Aries calendar around April 14. In Cambodia, we have the largest Hindu temple there in the world, Angkor Wat, and they have the Angkor Wat equinox event or festival. So it's a solar event that originates from the reign of Surya Varman II, or the Paramavishnu Loka. Paramavishnu Loka, who ruled the Khmer Empire from 1113 to 1145 or 1150 when he died. Thank you guys for your patience with my pronunciations. So a lot of folks will also travel to witness this solar event where they'll see the sun rise and fall, depending on how long you stay, obviously, which has been a practice that has been part of this culture for hundreds of years. In East Asian cultures, again, we're going to see this spring equinox being celebrated everywhere in many different ways. It's absolutely fascinating. I highly encourage you to dive deep. I went into a rabbit hole and spent way too many hours in this. So the Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese also recognize this time of year, and some of the traditional East Asian calendars divide the year into 24 solar terms, and they're equated to a particular astronomical event or phenomenon that occurs, and they're spaced about 15 degrees apart along the ecliptic, the path or orbit that the Earth makes around the sun. So in Japan, for example, we have the vernal equinox day, or Shunbun Nohi, celebrated on March 20 or the 21st, and it's an official holiday in Japan since 1948, so around post-World War II. So folks take time off from work, and many of them celebrate by visiting parks and nature and different types of festivities that occur outdoors, including Hanami, which is the flower viewing festival, where you have the sakura cherry blossom trees start to bloom or are in the process of blooming. And they have picnics and enjoy their time outside. And for farmers too, this is a huge day. And I'll say in my research, this connects to not just Japan, but in other, especially agrarian societies where farming is still predominant and important. They also consider the spring equinox a time of revering ancestors and praying for good crops, abundance, and prosperity for the rest of the year. So many of these practices, they overlap around the world. It's fascinating. In Mexico, we have Teotihuacan, the Mesoamerican pyramid that many folks see, especially with different events, but in this particular, with the spring equinox event, it'll occur generally on March 2021. It's really well known and many people flock to Mexico there, and it's similar to other events like Chichen Itza and Malinalco in Mexico. So there's, again, a lot more. I just picked some of the more well-known ones. So in ancient times, folks would climb up. There are, how many? 360 stairs. Some folks climbed up, some were just around it or in the vicinity. And they would watch the sun make shadows, and it looked like a snake or a serpent kind of slithering down the temple. And it was really neat. So folks watch the sunrise, watch the sunset. They also connect and commemorate to their ancestors as well. And they also, some folks say there's a portal there and that there's good energy, and it's like a revival type of energy that helps imbue the coming spring and rest of the time forward. Gosh, I wanted to include so much more, you all. They have really cool things. If you know of any more or want to add anything, comment down below. This just really helps you honor and celebrate your own cultures, your ancestral cultures and practices and homelands, and also connect to new ones. It's really fun to learn new ways to celebrate and to honor other people's traditions and cultures, and find your own too. So next, let's look at some practical ways you can celebrate and grow in this season. The first one is connect. Spring offers a perfect time to connect or reconnect with people, communities, friends, family, loved ones, and different types of events that essentially mean more than one person. We're coming out of hibernation and slumber for many people. And this is a time to start meeting new people, to connect to yourself and to others in different ways, get out there more, engage in nature, or just simply catch up. Other ideas that you can do to connect include connecting, setting up, reinvigorating your own spiritual practice or connection to the divine, especially to your ancestors. You can clean up your own altars. You can create your own altar if you haven't created one already. You can provide new offerings like food, fresh flowers, maybe dust it, etc. This is also a time too where you can share your hopes, your dreams, any worries with your spiritual team, with your ancestors. And it's amazing when you just share what you need to, and you can plant seeds and you can leave like a little piece of paper or an intention at your altar. And that can be a practice that you can engage in to initiate the spring equinox. Also, a wonderful time to play. If you have kids, no kids, or animals, go out there and play, have fun, let your little kid out. Go out and do fun things with your loved ones, regardless of your age. Video games, you can go out and play on the playground. It's time to reactivate that energy within ourselves. Second way to celebrate is to heal. And this is another theme that is consistent throughout the year, but it takes many different forms. Usually when we are healing during the winter season, for example, many folks tend to be more introspective, introverted, and tend to internalize and work through things on their own. It could be maybe through journaling, it could be through one-on-one healing modalities. But this spring equinox can have you going outwards because you can you can heal through connection and through so many other ways, and applying what it is that you've learned about yourself during the winter season. So there's nothing like warmth, light, a change in season, fresh air to really reinvigorate you. It's like taking off, the heavy layered winter clothing and coming out and feeling the lightness of it all symbolically. Remember, the light provides clarity. So there could be a lot of things that you have now come to the realization of as the spring season starts, and with the marking of the spring equinox, that you're like, I want to do something different. I'm ready to maybe go out and find new friends, or dive back into the romantic scene and date. Or maybe you're ready to find a new one-on-one counselor, coach, therapist, or group of support, community. Whatever it is, because there's many different ways you can heal. It doesn't just look like in the ways I've suggested. There's just many to name. The fire energy that is exemplified by Aries, you can use that to transmute a lot of this that has come up for you, that you may have been meandering through and working through during the winter season. And now you can do something about it in whatever way that feels safe and comfortable for you. With the energies that we have underlying the spring equinox, you can make your own decisions from a place of confidence, of probably calm but excitement too, and also empowerment to do something about it, to apply what you've learned and to continue that healing. The third practical way to celebrate and grow this season is to get outdoors. Just get outside. You can leave your front door, put a wreath on, get back into your garden, start a garden, collect flowers, buy flowers, spend time in a botanical garden or in a park, in your backyard, front yard, on a patch of grass. Just connect with something from nature. There's an invigorating energy, especially if you put your hand on a tree or you hold flowers or put your hand in the earth, where it really promotes, I would say, peace, calmness, and a feeling of overall tranquility. It's hard for me to explain, but there's been studies showing earthing, grounding is also very helpful in all of these topics that I've mentioned. But this is a time to realize that life is coming back. In other words, when we go out, and it'll depend on where you live in the world, you're able to see, well, life is emerging again, it's continuing, and it offers us hope, alleviation perhaps, compassion, support, love, but also excitement to see things are coming back into bloom. So this is a time to get back in touch with what's blooming within you and to celebrate the life or a season that's going to start for you. Play is another way to celebrate the season. And I've already touched on several of these things because many of these themes overlap. But get out there and play. Have fun. Do something that you have not done in a long time that you really love doing. Playing a game, sports, bowling, go to, what are they called? Groupons? Cultural event calendars. Do something fun that's calling for you. Take yourself out to the movies. The main point here is to get your inner child active and to start having joy and lighthearted fun during this season. It's not about taking yourself seriously because we're coming out of a serious, heavy period with winter. Another way to celebrate the season, which is very common that I have found in my research and practices around the world, spring clean. We all know what that means, but I want to take this up a notch. because a season has the energy of lightening up, right? Of undoing and taking off layers, something I mentioned earlier. In that same vein, decluttering, organizing, and cleaning your physical environment, your home, and what surrounds your home is important, but this also extends to your physical body. So you could take a more holistic approach or maybe a more expansive approach to include areas in your life that you want to spring clean. Maybe it's going to be your digital stuff, your phone, your computer, social media. It could be maybe the physical possessions that you have, your clothing, your jewelry, your books, etc. It could also be paperwork, your car. Maybe you need to declutter and clean up, spring clean some of the people you hang out with or the energies you impart or they impart with you. So the main point here is to pay attention to what is no longer allowing you to grow, what doesn't feel good, what you feel is stagnant, and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to let this go. Because whenever we shift that energy, and this really connects to the ancient Chinese practice of feng shui, to shifting the energy around us and within us. Ever notice, in winter we tend to eat comfort foods, heavier foods to keep us warm, right? Satiated for so many reasons. And in spring season, we start lightening up what we eat and we feel different. Some people start to eat lighter or eat healthier or change the way they eat or eat more whole foods like fruits and vegetables and things mainly from the earth. So there's an element here of cleaning up because energetically it's going to shift your own frequency and vibration, and you will more than likely feel better. Finally, another practice is to start something new. This is a big one. It doesn't have to be something big that you start, but starting something new, I think, really helps to embrace the season and to initiate and welcome in the energies of the spring equinox and spring in general. And some ways that you can do this is to start something that represents new beginnings, whether it's symbolically or physically tangible. For example, some of the things that I've done and that I enjoy doing symbolically include lighting a brand new candle. Pick a candle that you either are intuitively connecting to or a white candle, which symbolizes new beginnings and new starts. And you can light it each day throughout the spring season or whatever time frame you want. But essentially, you can set that intention to start this new chapter. You can plant a seed. It could be, I guess, a bulb too, but a seed for a plant, a fruit, or whatever. Or simply a seed to commemorate symbolically whatever it is that you aspire to head towards, whether it's bringing more abundance in your life, more love, more discipline, more commitment. Buy white flowers. Again, these represent new starts, new beginnings, or buy your favorite flowers. Cut your hair is another thing. When you change something, you're lightening up, and it has a strong, profound, energetic, I would say reverberation, but also message, because you're releasing here. Taking out the trash. This can go with spring cleaning, but literally taking out the trash. And starting your day with the sunrise to welcome the new. These are some symbolic ways to celebrate the new beginnings that is emblematic with the spring equinox. Tangibly, you can start a new goal or a hobby, a new garden or reinvigorate that area, a new workout because of the Mars energy with Aries, a new routine, practices or rituals, a healthier way of living in your life because we're blooming again. Think about when something comes back to life. And also any new foods, recipes, restaurants. Guys, I hope this video on the spring equinox provided you some greater depth understandings and even multi-layered, multi-dimensional processes around the underlying energies with the spring equinox, spring season in general, Aries, because they're all part and connected to one another, and also give you ideas on how you can celebrate this in your home with others that you love, how you can start taking a look and connecting more to the people that you care about, to your ancestors, and also to other cultural practices to engage in, because I'm sure for many folks that live near some of these communities I've mentioned, or maybe in bigger cities, they have these celebrations, and it's really fun. It's actually a lot of fun to learn new things connecting to this. So know that something in your life is getting ready to bloom. And only you know, and you are able to take the action steps on. Take a look at some of these other videos that may help support you on your soul journey. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you soon. Take care.